Welcome back to the channel, you guys. I am Sal, your pal. This week I got another nostalgia video from me to you. Here it is. Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life. This was a GameCube game that came out in 2003. I read about this game religiously in magazines before it released. This was an era. When they were promoting the game in like magazines, they talked a lot about the fact that you can marry someone in the game. I can see how a lot of people like that about this game. I just personally thought it was always a strange thing, but that was like the biggest selling point. And this game came out when I was like 12, before I even had a girlfriend. So it kind of like was this like weird 12-year-old fantasy of like being like a farmer and like marrying someone and falling in love and all that stuff. I can't believe this game is 20 years old. They're re-releasing a remaster of this game at the end of June, and it's called Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life. And I had to look into this because I didn't really understand how they were able to legally get away with like having Harvest Moon games not published by Natsume. So I looked into it, and Natsume and the original developer of the game had like I don't know what happened, but it was like kind of like a falling out, and the result of that is that Natsume has the name Harvest Moon, but the original developer has the rights to the games. So that's why you're seeing games that are coming out that are remakes of old Harvest Moon games, but they're called Story of Seasons. And likewise, Natsume is still putting out Harvest Moon games, but from what I've heard, they all are really bad. So I like the originals. Harvest Moon was like this real cool fantasy game where you had like daily responsibilities, and it was very, very tedious. But like when I was a kid, I loved that. Story of Seasons is gonna fix a lot of quality of life improvements. I've already watched a bunch of videos on that because I'm really excited. And the biggest thing that they're fixing is the speed of how everything goes. Like the original game really feels like a really, really old janky game. Like well, it's a 20-year-old game, but like just the whole process of getting an item out of your backpack and using an item and putting an item away, and you can only pick up one thing at a time and water one square at a time. Most of the game was just trying to just trudge through the really, and I mean really slow gameplay. When I was a kid, I didn't care because I loved this game so much. And I didn't play the other games in the series until later after this game. I think I had Harvest Moon DS for a while. I don't know what happened to it. And then eventually I would go on to play the Harvest Moon games on the Game Boy Advance. I actually reconnected with a coworker over Harvest Moon Friends of Mineral Town. And I remember we had this like super long, deep conversation about like the intricacies of the game and how it was so great and how it just like it brought back this nostalgic feeling. I feel that way about this game too. It just brings back this nostalgic feeling of being a kid and like not really caring about, you know, time. Because I would play this game for hours and my parents would have to stop me because I would just be so caught up in just everything, all the daily day-to-day things, and trying to get your cows to like squirt out high quality milk so you can sell it. Why did I say squirt out? And like you'd have to like go and talk to them every day. You have to pet every cow and brush every horse and trim every sheep. It was so much fun. It sounds like really tedious, but like okay, so if I were to play the game now, like I put the game on just to record some footage, and I could not stand the game because I heard the sounds. They were so just low quality, and like the cows sound really low quality, and it just sounds like someone in like a recording booth going moo. Like that was probably a better recording of the cow sound. Just to get through the town was so hard on foot because you moved at such a slow pace that like it was so hard to get anywhere. And like there was no sound once you left the farm, so all you could hear is the sounds of the footsteps, which are just the same sample looping over and over and over again. I'm pretty sure I drove my parents wild because, you know, the only thing in the house they would hear would be the TV. I know the ring sound effects from the Sonic Adventure games, those drove them crazy. And the laser beeping from Sonic Adventure 2 when you do like the tank levels, the beeping would drive them crazy because it's such a high-pitched noise. Anyway, one thing I really liked about the game was crossbreeding. Like eventually later on in the game, you'd unlock this machine that could crossbreed two fruits or vegetables, and it was really cool. I probably won't have footage of that. I never could figure out the harvest sprites. I didn't have the internet when I was a kid when I was playing this game, so I couldn't look up how to do the harvest sprites. but there's a way to get the harvest sprites to do the farming for you. But like as a kid, I didn't care. Like I enjoyed the farming a lot, so that was fine for me. And also the overworld music was just really annoying because it was just the same track looped over and over and over again. It was just hard to like bear that, and I wish I had a way at the time to just kind of drown that out, but I couldn't. This was 2003. The iPod came out in 2001, and it was too expensive for me as a kid to buy. Plus, I would have had to wait till Christmas to ask for it, which I'm pretty sure I asked for a DS because that's when the DS came out around that time. I couldn't even like listen to anything. I had a CD Walkman, but you had to buy the batteries for it. I didn't have a job as a kid, so I had to just like collect loonies and hope that my parents bought batteries so I could listen to music. And even then, like I only had like a couple CDs when I was that age too, so like I couldn't really listen to anything. Also, I didn't even have an MP3 player, and when I did have an MP3 player, it could only hold like 12 songs, and then my buddy ended up stealing it from me when we hung out one time, and that was weird. He sold me an MP3 player and then stole it from me. Anyway, it's okay, James. I forgive you. It's fine. But like, why would you do that? This was also like before YouTube came out and before podcasts came out, and oh my gosh. Wow, I'm old. I could only listen to the sound of the game, and it was terrible. The footage I recorded for this video is not my original game. I ended up selling the game, because I have this thing, and this was just with the older Harvest Moons. The newer ones probably fixed this, but the Harvest Moon endgame never worked for me. You play and you play and you play and you grind and you grind and you grind to a point where you have all this money, and the loop is you sell the crops and the milk and everything to get money to buy more seeds and animals to then sell to buy more crops, and then it's just like you realize that there's like nothing left in the game. And sometimes I hit that realization earlier than later, but that's why I ended up selling it, probably to EB Games for like $5. According to this price tag, I bought this game for $15, which is a great price. I wonder how much it's worth now. That was the biggest thing with this game and other Harvest Moon games in general, was that you hit a point where you end up, you don't know what you're doing. You're just grinding and grinding. And so I hope that's what they fix in the new game. So in the last video, I told you guys a funny story about like how I used to collect loonies and put them in Coke, and then I went to buy Mario Party 2. This is actually the first game, or the first time in my life my parents let me stay home from school to play this game. It was only one instance where they let me do that. I was so addicted to this game that I convinced my parents to let me stay home from school for one day to play this game. I never did that again, because no other game gripped me like this game. I remember that I just fished in that stream next to the farm and at that waterfall. That's all I did. That was my play session for my entire day. I don't know how long it was on that thing, probably for like over 8 hours, and I just fished down that stream. And I just want to leave you with that, is that I love this game so much. When I was like 12, that I fished on this stream for an entire day, probably like 16 hours or something straight. And yeah, that's Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life. That's my nostalgia for this game. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm pretty excited that A&W has iced coffee now, and they put it in mugs. I think that's adorable. And I hope you guys subscribe for more content, and I will see you in the next one.